Welcome back to Behind the Print podcast, where we feature industry leaders and uncover the creative minds and their businesses within the world of professional printing. Our mission is to provide you with inspiring, actionable resources that elevate your business projects and accelerate your journey to excellence in profit and print. Today's episode is The Pregnant Opportunity, where we explore how reimagined childbirth education is shaping the next generation of parents and birth professionals. Our guest is a birth worker, educator, speaker, and consultant, and the founder and CEO of Birthsmarter. Joining us today is Ashley Brichter.
Hi.
Hey, Ashley, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Thanks so much for having me.
Good. I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I don't know if we talked about this in our exchange, but my uncle was in the printing business for years and years, and it's actually very thrilling for me to step into the print space in addition to the totally separate work we do with childbirth education and supporting new parents. I actually really love printing as an industry.
That's awesome. So you're kind of passing the family baton down in printing.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're like, I called my cousin right away who inherited the business. And I was like, the printing company wants to have me on their podcast. And he was like, that's so cool. Yeah. We're all very giddy about it.
That's awesome. Well, we're so excited to have you here, but I just have to know what inspired you to start Birth Smarter?
So many things. Starting Birthsmarter really feels like a crystallization of the work I was doing in many different areas of my life. So I've known for a very long time, I mean, like really since I was like 3, 4, 5 years old, that I was going to be a teacher in some capacity. I love the world of education. I think thinking about how people learn and how people remember is just fascinating. I've had a way with words and I'm like dynamic in front of a room, and I really thought because I also love babies and little kids and school supplies, going back to printing, right? Like paper, pencils, it's all so fun. I really thought I was going to be in an elementary school or middle school or high school. I went to school and I got a degree in secondary social studies education. And then actually, sort of as luck would have it, right? I went on this journey that so many people do in their young adulthood, and I couldn't get a job teaching at a school that I was really passionate about. I was applying to schools up and down the East Coast, and there were many hiring freezes, budget cuts in education and public education. And so I felt very comfortable. I come from an entrepreneurial family. My uncle owned a printing business. My mom and my aunt have owned various. And so I started nannying and catering and sort of fell into working as a personal assistant. And I would combine all my skill sets. So I primarily got clients who were, I branded it. It was called Managing Overwhelming Moments. And the work was supporting New York City's high impact women during moments of great transition. And I would come in as like a right hand. And so if you were getting divorced, if you were moving, if you were starting a new job, if you had like a flood or a major renovation, I would sort of come in and be secondary childcare. I could make meals. I could help you file your insurance claims. I could like wait for the movers to come. And it was so fun. I mean, I was like, I got to practice being an adult. I got to be around all of these like amazing folks. And that really turned into people having babies who were younger and younger, and me sort of saying, oh, I'm not totally, I love your baby, I'll hold your baby, but like, I don't really know, what to do. And so I did a postpartum doula training, which was, I mean, it's a 3-day training. Like it's a lovely course. Everybody who's around folks who are having babies, I think, should do a postpartum doula training and a birth doula training because there are lost arts of like, how do we support our community? And so really I did it not to start a company, but really I felt like, oh, my friends are going to be having babies. I want to know more about this. Like, what is this village we speak of? And so I loved it. And I left the postpartum doula training feeling like, oh, I already know how to do this. You go in and you be supportive, and you cook and you hold the baby. I learned some newborn care techniques. And I realized I knew nothing about breastfeeding, which is a whole nother training. So I became a lactation counselor. And I realized I knew nothing really about the birth. And then I became a birth doula. And I never wanted to go like full into the birth world, but I had a few clients who were just the coolest. And they were like, we want you to do more with us. We want you to do more with us. And I took a continuing education training to become a better birth doula that was taught by an organization that taught people to become childbirth educators. And growing up, I don't think anybody ever has thought, oh, you know what I want to do when I grow up is become a childbirth educator. Like, best case, folks know of childbirth education classes because there's a scene in a movie where there's like a very pregnant couple practicing the like breath, right? Like in a basement of a hospital or something. But I really was able to immediately, I mean, I vividly remember sitting in this class in 2012 thinking, wait, people learn how to teach this stuff in a group classroom setting. That's what I know how to do. I know how to teach groups, right? And what does it matter if they're 5 years old or 15 or 35 having a baby? And really started paying attention to the childbirth education space. And then it sort of went from there. Yeah, there's like longer story, but I found my niche and I still think maybe I'll get out at some point. I don't know that I want to be in the childbirth education world in 15 years, but Birthsmarter's got legs of its own now.
That's very true. And how you mentioned it started with just your friends and kind of evolved into much more. Who is Birthsmarter designed to serve?
Birthsmarter is designed to serve expectant parents. We niche out in supporting folks and educating them with group classes for folks in their third trimester. So we primarily teach people having their first baby, though in the last 2 years, since Birthsmarter officially started in 2019, I've been teaching group classes under my own name since 2014. We're getting a lot more people who have they're having their second or third baby and they're like, hey, my first birth, right, or my wife's first birth was not what we were expecting. We want to try this again. Maybe we should take a class. And so we love teaching anybody who is curious. That's sort of our baseline. If they're open minded and they're curious, they want to learn the physiology, they want to learn how to hack it, and they really don't have a like, this is my dead set agenda, then they're an ideal Birthsmarter client. And we are equally accessible to the mom or the birth parent as we are to the partner. That's one thing that really sets us apart is that like I am actually best at teaching expectant dads, but we have a lot of queer educators on the team who are happy teaching two mom families, or, families can look so many different ways, single parents by choice, those adopting, those welcoming a baby via surrogacy. And so we do have different classes, whether it's newborn care or lactation or just a postpartum prep class that speak to folks to cover all the bases. But the core is, hey, you're about to welcome this kid. What do you need to know?
Really cool. And you'd mentioned how it's kind of for everybody or whoever wants to learn about it. Do you think that's what sets Birthsmarter apart from other childbirth education providers?
It's one of the biggest things that sets us apart. In the childbirth education world, there is a lot of toxic positivity. There's a lot of, it's for better or worse, but probably for worse. But like it was the best thing that we had until now. And so I don't want to discount it because most of the time, childbirth educators and birth workers and folks just educating their community are doing really important work. But what we've seen is as the history of childbirth practices in the United States has become incredibly medicalized in a way that without faulting the individuals in the medical system is causing harm for families. Like just, a quick Google search on maternal mortality or the maternal health crisis in the United States will lead to just an incredible weekend of research for folks who don't know that we're having some problems in the US, right? Women are twice as likely to die in childbirth as our moms were a generation ago. Postpartum depression rates are really through the roof, pelvic health complications. It is not a sound and trustworthy time to be having a baby. And so There are a lot of reasons why there are folks out there who want to sort of reclaim the experience as being natural, and we should trust it and we should learn how our body works, and we don't have to have this overly medicalized approach. However, what happens in a lot of those cases, if you're following those social media accounts or taking those birth classes, is that they start to teach in a binary where it's like natural birth versus medicated birth, right? Or a vaginal birth versus a cesarean. And people start feeling like there's a ton of judgment and there's a ton of like, well, this is the right way, right? And so the toxic positivity messages come out where you have people who are feeling like, you've got this, mama. It's going to be amazing. Pregnancy is amazing if you learn how your body works and then you breathe and you trust it and you get a midwife and you get a doula and you reject all medical interventions. Nothing will go wrong. And this is just going to be like the greatest time in your whole life because your body is a temple and like you have to believe it. You have to manifest it and you're going to have the best birth ever. Um, and like some of that is true, right? Because it's not black or white. Some of that is true. The body is having a baby is awesome. It is the coolest thing. If I could do it again tomorrow, I would. I would have 10 more babies. Oh man, it is like it's the best workout. It's just amazing. But I had all of the knowledge. I was a birth doula. I was a postpartum doula. I was a childbirth educator. I had a midwife. I had a doula. I manifested. And then I almost died in my first birth in 2014 because babies are going to baby. That's what we say, right? And I'm not in control of this process. I'm literally trying to get a human being out of my body. Like, that's really challenging. And there's a lot that can go wrong. And so having my own experience of feeling like I did it all right, right? Going to, hey, something really scary and really wrong is happening, and I desperately need Western medicine. I desperately need surgeons. I need people to make sure that I get the blood transfusions that I need postpartum. And I wanted to take that and create a class and a sort of company-wide curriculum and ethos that existed in the nuance, right? We exist in the gray. And so the reason we're for everybody is because we acknowledge all the outcomes. We acknowledge that you can have a beautiful, transformative childbirth experience, whether you're giving birth or your partner's giving birth. And that can be an unmedicated vaginal birth, and that can be a vaginal birth with an epidural, that can be an induction, that can be a cesarean, right? Because welcoming a human being into the world is awe-inspiring. Where we're not for everybody is like when folks who are in their manifest box, right? They're really hoping to just keep their blinders on when they don't want to hear that things might go the way that they want, then they sometimes feel like Birthsmarter is not the right fit because they're not ready to know that they're not in control. And that's their journey. But more and more people are willing to engage with us and be like, okay, I've had enough friends go through this and it's not always perfect. So tell me what I need to know without scaring me.
Love how you put that. It's super informational and educational in that way too, because like you were saying, that deep dive could last forever. So I think that's really, really cool. And it seems like that the people who are using Birthsmarter come pretty naturally, but can you tell me maybe some marketing strategies that have been most effective in reaching expectant parents and professionals? And how do you approach building trust with them?
Well, it's funny you ask how we build trust because that is like the number one, like in all of our marketing meetings, just being trustworthy is our gold star because especially in this space where there's so much noise and people get so confused, we want to make sure that when folks come into Birthsmarter, there is like a deep sense of trust that even if we don't have the answers for you, we're going to get them and we're going to vet them. And so very, very early on when I was starting, I knew that the best way to get clients was to get other people to meet me, like me, trust me, and send folks my way. So we have since done some real research, and we know that pregnant people are most likely to make a decision about a childbirth education class based on the recommendation of their obstetrician or midwife. And when they don't get a recommendation from an OB or midwife, they'll get it from a doula or a massage therapist, an acupuncturist, somebody that they're already seeing and somebody that they already have a trusting relationship with. And so we literally, it's March 7th. So 5.5 weeks before this podcast, we turned on Meta and Google ads. But for the first 5.5 years of the business, spent no money on paid advertising because we just sort of continued to double down on our networking and partnerships. And so we did wind up building an affiliate program because we said instead of us giving money to Meta and Google, we would love to give our community money. So if you are an acupuncturist or massage therapist and you're going to send folks our way anyway, right, then we'll incentivize with that financially. And some folks like getting their check at the end of the month. Some folks say, we don't want the money, put it back. We have an alternative pricing program. So we give scholarships for all of our classes. So some folks contribute it back to that program, or some folks tack the discount onto their clients and they'll give their clients a bigger discount. But so we created, and this comes around to the printing, right? Is our space in particular, pregnancy and new parenting, is terrifying when it comes to social media and Google searching. Like, if I had one piece of advice for anybody pregnant, it would be to delete social media and set a timer on their phone so they can't access the internet, in particular between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Like, nobody should be searching overnight because the groundwork for anxiety and depression is so high when you compare yourself to other people or where you get potentially scary information. So we wanted to go back to saying, how do people find out about things? And we print flyers all the time. Our flyers are up on ice cream shop windows and they're up on coffee shop cork boards. And all of the partners who we refer to have our rack cards in their offices. And and then the newest thing we've produced in New York City and Salt Lake City, and we'll do Phoenix next, is a small booklet called the Birthsmarter Resource Guide. It's all things you need to know from pregnancy to parenting. And we essentially, this is not an idea I created. I have to give credit to an organization called Birth Roots, which is an amazing nonprofit in Portland, Maine. They started printing these books many years ago, and it's like a yellow pages for all the resources in a local community. And I picked this book up and almost burst into tears thinking, how useful would this have been for me when I was pregnant? I hate Instagram. I want to hold this magazine, this little booklet in my hands and know that these are other vetted practitioners in the community, because especially when you're pregnant, you need other people. You don't need to follow accounts where you have to condense, a caption into 200 characters. Like, you need nuance and time and connection and shared space. So, yeah, that's a lot of our marketing strategy.
That's really cool. It's a really good mix of digital and print, and mainly print. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think that we feel like it comes back, right? I guess there's like a nuance in this, right? Where you're advertising, how you're advertising, all of your marketing strategies are going to find people in certain places. And if we want folks who are in their bodies and in their communities and they're open-minded and their eyes wide open, right? Then we need to show up in those spaces. And social media lends itself to people who want silver bullets or quick fixes, or like, this reel is going to change my life. And so we play on there, but that is not our primary focus when we're really looking to strengthen the bonds of our partners, of our network, and really make the impact in the community that we want, where we know our client base is.
Right. So using those audiences in specific places and using print to target those people has been really effective for you guys, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's been super effective, and I think people really are hungry for it. I will say this too. Every where we like ever subcontract, like when we print our tote bags, when we print our hats, like we have very, very limited swag. We don't sell stuff. We're so incredibly environmentally conscious. We're only working with people who we really trust to be like delivering the best in class. And we don't want there to be garbage, right? That's like not our goal is to produce anything wasteful. And there, like we maybe will print a t-shirt this spring because it's just like a really fun idea and people have told us that they want it, but it would be like a super limited edition. Everybody would have to prepay. Like it is tricky as a business owner who is so socially conscious to not freeze and say, no, we can't print anything, right? Because I think that probably 15 years ago, 10 years ago, that's what happened to the printing industry is everybody was like, we just will invest in digital. We'll save our money on printing. We don't need paper. It's bad for the environment. But then the pendulum swung, and now it's like, well, we're spending way more money on digital advertising than anybody was ever spending on print marketing. And we're not really reaching people in the same way because digital is crowded. So, how can we produce printed material in a way that is still responsible? It's still thoughtful about the impact that you're having on the earth and not print 7,000 business cards and like drop them from a helicopter, right? But create something, create collateral for your business that is truly valuable for other people so that they won't throw it out. And then it's like a win-win.
Yeah, exactly. So they have the perfect resources. There's no need to get rid of it, and there's no waste involved. So there's no like overusage or overspending or unnecessary collections of items, basically.
Yeah, totally. I think that's one of the biggest things that are the rat cards that we print for Birthsmarter have like a little ad on the front, but the back is a hospital packing list. Like the idea is that somebody's going to keep that for 2, 3 months, right? And then, yeah, they'll recycle it, but that provided a lot of value beyond having my website on it.
That's really cool. I think a lot of businesses could include that in their type of print materials, just more usable material rather than just consumable content.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Because I also know when I get things from partners, and they'll hand me like 50 of their rat cards or whatever. And I'm like, I have to recycle all these. These are not useful for me.
Right, that's so hard. And so Birth Smarter started as a single class in Brooklyn and has grown into a national platform. Tell me, what was that transition like and what key lessons did you learn along the way?
Yeah, so I used to teach every single month myself and love it. My favorite thing is still to be in front of a class. We have 19 teachers now in 7 states, and we'll be growing in September. We'll start our new teacher training cohort for 2026. And I got my brother, because I come from a very entrepreneurial family. My brother has started 2 businesses and was a mentor of mine when I was he still is, but he was very like supportive when I was first starting. And I asked him at some point for advice on how to grow. And for context, I'm not quite sure of your audience, but some people might resonate with this. I started Birthsmarter like officially, I would say in 2019, but I really knew that I was going to go all in on starting a business to reimagine and scale childbirth education in 2017. And 2017 might have not been the height, but it was incredibly close to the peak of interest in venture capital. And I was a young female founder in New York. I knew the odds of getting venture capital, but I also knew that there was this niche of like, if I could create a really awesome platform, I could make a lot of money really fast. And I was very intrigued by that. My brother is a tech founder. I felt competitive, right? I feel a lot like, why are some things what catches on in our society? Why do some people make a lot of money when they're not providing value to the world? And what I'm doing is genuinely changing lives and like generationally changing family stories. Like I should be making a lot of money based on the value for our society. And in order to VC raise, you need to come out with just an audacious goal and plan of getting there really, really fast. And I started to question my desire for that lifestyle. I had two little babies. I really wanted to be a present parent. I really wanted to build something great without pressure from a board. And I remember having a conversation with my brother, and I was just like all over the place. I was like, what do I do? And he was like, just do the next thing. And so the next thing was like, okay, I need another teacher. Like, I can't do all of this just me. So I need another teacher. And so there were two women in Brooklyn, and I knew they were awesome. And one of them posted on Facebook, and she was like, I'm going to start my own childbirth ed class. Like, I'm writing my curriculum. And I wrote to her and I was like, don't do that. I wrote a curriculum. It's awesome. And I want you to come teach for me, and I'll pay you really well. And she was teacher number one. Teacher number two, Caprice Abowit, is still with us. She's the director of education. And then we taught all the classes, and then COVID hit, and then we filmed them to be on demand. And then we learned how to teach virtually. And that was wild because we pride ourselves on not using any technology in our in-person classes. So you are not coming into a Birthsmarter class and getting a big PowerPoint, like, because snore, right? So we have really awesome workbooks that we print, and we, again, printed material, right? People get a pencil. There's like colored pencils in our classes. They're coloring in little coloring pages. And it's like super, super tangible because you're getting ready for a tangible analog experience. And then COVID hit, and we were like, we have to teach virtually. We don't have a single slide deck created. So we had to build those like within a week to transfer all of our classes to virtual. And then I was like, all right, I'll go back to this VC idea because now I have a virtual company and it's easier to scale. And then by the summer of 2021, people just kept emailing and being like, when are you going back to in-person classes? I don't want to take your class online. I'll mask, I'll give you proof of vaccination. Like, I will pay more money if there's fewer people so we can socially distance, but like, I'm pregnant and I want to take a birth class in person. And we were like, okay, we'll go back in person. But I had moved out of New York City, Caprice had moved, and we were like, we got to hire two more teachers in Brooklyn and really train them. And then I flew in to co-teach with them. And then I like wrote a different sort of teacher manual that was like, here's everything you need to know. And I think once we had trained the seventh teacher, I was like, we can't keep doing this one at a time. And so then we created the Birthsmarter Teacher Training Program. And we, to date, have not fundraised. We did do a crowdfunding campaign, which I think I would say, for unsolicited advice, every single founder should crowdfund. It was life changing. Truthfully, it was better than my wedding. It was the greatest thing besides having my babies because, especially for female founders, the world is not set up to celebrate professional milestones. And it's really sad because some people are doing like the coolest things. And I had a lot of people in my network, I mean, high school friends, college friends, family friends, who were like, what you're doing is cool. Or they're like, wait, what do you do? And they are not pregnant, so they can't give my company any money, right? But they do have $50 or $100 to support me. And if you don't crowdfund, that is money left on the table. So crowdfunding was amazing, but we didn't raise any big money, and we just keep doing the next thing. We get a little money in and then we spend it. And then we get a little money in and then we spend it as we grow.
Yeah, just like your brother said, you just got to do the next step.
Yeah.
You'd mentioned that huge milestone, but what are some major milestones that have helped shape and grow Birthsmarter? And maybe those are some you've already mentioned.
Yeah, I think I would recap, right? I think that knowing that I wanted to start a business at all was a milestone. And I felt very, very grateful to have three women in particular who had either started companies or were on founding teams of startups who were clients of mine. And so from day one, I had women workshopping with me. What's a, mission, vision, business plan? Like, how do we get this going? And have like very much gotten here because of their early support. And there's still people that I would call regularly. Hiring the first teacher, surviving COVID. I mean, this is not a milestone, but it's a horrible milestone of we changed our legal entity. So I was an LLC, and then in COVID, when I was thinking about fundraising, became a C Corp, a Delaware C Corp. And so I dissolved the first legal entity to move into the second entity. And that was exactly when the government was giving out PPP funding. And so I didn't qualify for any of my government funding in COVID because I had dissolved the legal entity that had the payroll history. So there have been plenty of moments along the way where you also feel like your soul is crushed. You feel like you're getting run over front and back by a truck, and you're like, what? Like, I need to get a job. Like, somebody else should pay me. I don't want to be in charge of this. I don't want to be in charge of other people's payroll. So there have been those milestones. Launching teacher training was a huge milestone. I do feel like in general, it's hard for me to celebrate victories along the way because I have a vision for where we're headed and we're not there yet. And that is really hard. But the more I learn, the more I think that really every successful founder has that same sort of struggle. Is like, yeah, what we're doing is cool, but we're just wait.
Yeah, that's super, super cool. Those are some really great milestones and exciting ones too. But is there anything holding Birthsmarter back, like right now?
Money. Money. Yeah, my team, I don't have anybody who works full time on Birthsmarter. I work more than full time, but I have an amazing crew. There's 5 of us on the admin team who don't primarily teach. Like I still teach, Capri still teaches. Actually, our operations manager is also now a teacher. She went through teacher training. But our director of ops, our director of marketing, they're working 10, 15 hours a week because it's what we can afford right now. And so we're incredibly efficient and productive with the capacity we have and the money we have to continue investing in the business. But that's a really big thing holding us back.
Yeah, that can be super, super hard. And a lot of people talk about capital, so I totally get you there, but using your resources wisely is the best thing you can do.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we've been very lucky to be able to grow in a way that supports all of our lives outside of the company. And I think that is something that's really important to know also. I think another big milestone from a work-life balance perspective, because that's an area that's like very interesting to me, is and this is like stuff founders never really talk about and reveal, but I have paid myself a consistent salary for the last 2.5 years. And getting to that milestone of like, oh, I can't go into personal debt for this business, especially as a female founder, especially as a mom founder, that's unhealthy. Some people are able to start businesses because of generational wealth or spousal income, and I'm not in that position. Birthsmarter is how I make money, and it's very important every single month. And so months that we thought, oh, I should defer my salary because I needed to pay for this other thing, the really about 2.5 years ago, I started changing that narrative to be like, no, that's actually can't happen anymore. And we have to figure out how to operate this business in a way where I get paid to do the work that I'm doing. And there's something called profit first accounting that became very, very helpful for understanding our bottom line and our operational expenses. And so I do think there are certain things in place like that have been more important in the back end where, okay, even if we only have folks who are working 10, 15 hours a week, they're able to do that because of other jobs they have, or they're able to do that in addition to being primary parents who are at home, right, doing childcare, where the goal at Birthsmarter in the back end is that everybody's cup is really full. And so what does that look like? And we think about that a lot in terms of just organizational culture.
That's awesome. What a great stand to take as a boss and just seeing that for what it is and then allowing yourself to say, hey, this isn't working. I need to get paid because what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
So You had mentioned your future goals and what you hope to achieve with Birth Smarter. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, our big goal that we're working on right now, it feels scary to say, but the big goal that we're working on right now is Birthsmarter becoming the first and only childbirth education class to be in network with a major insurance provider. Because currently in 2025 in the United States, childbirth education is not covered by insurance. Some places will reimburse you for a childbirth education class, but you have to go through, and we all know what that is like to submit the claim and provide the codes and maybe get a percentage of the fee back. And it is a low hanging, low cost solution to really move the needle in the maternal health crisis in the United States. And because of our curriculum, because of our advisory board, our midwife, our OB, our pediatrician on our board, because we employ our educators and are providing oversight, there are a lot of reasons why Birthsmarter could potentially unlock this thing that no other childbirth education organization has unlocked.
I think that would be super important for everybody in America right now. And I really, really, really hope that happens for you guys. That would be a great milestone. Fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
fingers
Yes.
crossed.
So, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
The most rewarding part of my job, honestly, the most rewarding part of my job is liking it. I feel very excited and very grateful to wake up every day and get to use my own brain to solve problems and feel like my work is really meaningful. And so I think I have in my years growing Birthsmarter become a more confident and more capable person outside of work because of how much my day-to-day job continues to show me that I am capable and like interesting. And I think that impacts my parenting, that impacts the work that we do with the families that we serve. Yeah, that's the thing that I like the most. And I say that just to speak to this idea that like my existence as a founder exists outside of Birthsmarter. Like I can sell Birthsmarter or operate Birthsmarter, but bring in a CEO and roll that same thing into a different company, right? Where like that is my goal for everybody is that they get to wake up and they get to do something that makes them feel important and meaningful. Um, I think the most rewarding part of Birthsmarter is knowing that we are challenging something that's really detrimental, right? We are pushing back and we're creating a standard of saying to expectant parents and new parents, having a baby can be awesome. Let's reframe this. And two, it's not hard because you're not good enough. It's hard because it's hard. And sitting with each other in that knowledge, normalizing it and building community around it, I think is the antidote that we need to these depressions of anxiety and depression.
I love that passion that you have for your business. It's not often that you see small businesses or businesses in general saying, "Oh, I love waking up and going to work. That's the best part of my day." So I think that takes Birth Smarter to a whole nother level in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. It's so sad that people don't feel that way. I think it's the thing I'm most privileged about, right? Like, also, I have two kids and they're both really healthy, but there's lots of ways I get to be grateful. But really, I have enough friends who struggle at work and who like hate their job or they just, I'm not saying that we should all be living to work. But how nice is it when your work overlaps with your passion, what you're excited about? And I mean, even socially, I think it holds me back because if I try and hang out with people who don't want to talk about my work, I'm like, I don't know what to talk about. Like, I just want to talk, I just want to hang out with founders. And it's more than birth people. I want to hang out with founders. I want to hang out with problem solvers. I want to hang out with visionaries. I want to like come up with 5 ideas for a new company and then make something awesome. Like, how cool is that? That like it's the best way to play, right? We just get to make something new and awesome.
Yes, surrounding yourself with the experts is always awesome.
Yeah.
So if you had a day to spend completely free however you'd like, not at work, what would you be doing?
Wow. What? I mean, I'm a mom, so I don't understand the question. I'm just kidding. I do think about that sometimes. I would, first and foremost, I would go outside and I would move my body. Those things are very, very important to me. If I could put my face in the sun and go to the gym, or I don't run, but go skiing. I really like to ski. I really like to swim. I really like to boat. So, yeah, being some sort of outside adventure would be awesome. And if that's not possible, then I'm pretty stereotypical. Like, I like a day at the spa. That sounds nice. Or having like a big party. I would spend a day having like all of my friends and family come over and have like a potluck and hang out with people.
That sounds like so much fun. So, how can our listeners get in touch with you, learn more about Birthsmarter, or sign up for a class?
So we're very easy to find. We're birthsmarter.com. We're at birthsmarter on Instagram. I'm Ashley at birthsmarter.com. We are a really small team, so folks can email me directly or go to the contact us page to email Lauren or Harmony with other questions. And signing up for a class happens directly on the website. The only thing is, if folks want to take advantage of the alternative pricing policy to get rates that fit their income bracket, then they do have to fill out a form that's in the footer of the website. But we really do pride ourselves on being just incredibly accessible in all areas. Like, we're accessible in terms of your learning style, we're accessible in terms of your finances, we're accessible in terms of your schedule, we're accessible in terms of like, I will text you back at 10 p.m. So we should be really easy to access.
Awesome. Well, you guys heard her. Check them out on social media at Birthsmarter or check them out at birthsmarter.com. But that's another wrap on an episode of Behind the Print podcast. Thanks to our listeners for joining us as we have explored the artistry and innovation of the printing world. Remember, having a strong vision, building the right strategy, and using tools like print to amplify your message will make you stand out from the crowd. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to stop by printingcenterusa.com and get yourself a free sample pack and share it with your fellow business enthusiasts. Until next time, keep those creative sparks flying and remember, there's always more to discover behind the print.